and I want to start by playing a short voice recording, if it comes out okay. Please play it.
Okay. Hey, Greg, this is Tom Perez calling you at, excuse me, calling you at 9 o'clock on Tuesday. Got your message. The main thing I wanted to ask you, I spoke to some folks in the Civil Division yesterday, and wanted to make sure that the declination memo that you sent to the Civil Division, and I'm sure it probably already does it, but it doesn't make any mention of the Magna case. It's just a memo on the merits of the two cases that are under review in the TCAM context. So that was the main thing I wanted to talk to you about. I think, to use your words, we're just about ready to rock and roll. I did talk to David Lillahog last night. So if you can give me a call, just want to confirm that you got this message and that you were able to get your stuff over to the Civil Division.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney General, that recording, as was earlier in my committee, the Oversight Committee's report, is Thomas Perez, an individual as one of your deputies, arranging for something not to be disclosed as part of his quid pro quo in St. Paul. Do you think it's appropriate for someone to, at a federal level, to try to keep information out in order to disguise what's actually going on?
I'm not sure I'd necessarily agree with that characterization. I'm not intimately familiar with all that happened in connection with the inquiry that was done.
Okay, well, let's just go through a hypothetical that is a little easier. You've got a case that's going to gain the United States people $180 million. You've got another case you don't want to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. You trade those two cases because you don't want to have that happen, and then you tell somebody, you know, we'd like to keep things quiet. Let's make sure we don't disclose it. Is that right or wrong?
Well, there are a whole variety of reasons why we as a government, Justice Department, decide not to become involved in QI-TAM cases. The strength of the evidence, questions of law, position of the court.
Is it okay to trade a case you don't want going to the Supreme Court for a dollar damage case? That's the real question here.
Well, one has to take a look at this in its totality and decide exactly if there were.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. It's okay to do that trade in your mind.
That was not a yes. It was not a. I was trying to answer the.
Okay, well, you know, Mr. Attorney General, I need a yes or a no before you go into the long dialogue. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time. There was a quid pro quo. There was a trade of $180 million worth of revenue to the American people in return for dropping a case that your Justice Department did not want go before the High Court. To coin the phrases used, bad facts make bad decisions or bad law. Now, I understand you or at least Mr. Perez didn't want things going to the Supreme Court, but let's go through where we are today.
Well, the decision not to take over the False Claims Act case did not end the case.
Well, you may say that, but the plaintiff who saw himself abandoned didn't see it that way. But let me go on to another line of questioning.
The ability to try the case, I don't think it worked out well, as I understand it. But the case was not over simply because the United States did not become involved.
Right, but the case going to the U.S. Supreme Court was over.
We do not become involved in QI-TAM cases 80% of the time.
The case going to the U.S. Supreme Court was over as a result.
Well, the decision was made not to pursue that case.
Okay. So the American people were denied the highest court considering a case. That's an undeniable fact. Let me go through some questions here.
That's incorrect.
I've been working with.
That is a fact.
Well, we'll let the people decide whether they were denied a Supreme Court decision.
Typically, you do, but
Mr. Attorney General, Ms. Perez falsely stated to our committee that he had apparently none, then 1, then 2, then 34, then 35 emails that violated the Federal Records Act. Your office has only, I think yesterday or today, allowed us to see in camera the to and from on these emails. We have not seen the contents. But in seeing the to and from...
Mr. Chairman, I have a parliamentary inquiry, please.
The gentleman from California will suspend. The gentleman will suspend her parliamentary inquiry.
I thank the gentleman. First of all, I would like to know, I've been on this committee for more than I would like to count. Was there notice given of this recording to be played I have not, in the life of the time that I've been in this committee, heard a recording. Was a minority noticed on this recording?
The gentleman
is this a hearing about Mr. Tom Perez, or is this a question about?
The gentleman will suspend. The gentleman
I'd be happy to yield to you. First, I would like to know: has the notice been given? Was the Attorney General's office given notice about a recording?
The gentlewoman will suspend, and the chair will answer her question.
I'd be happy.
There is no requirement under the rules of the committee that a member cannot use evidence before the committee as a part of the hearing.
Mr. Chairman, if I could clarify for the gentlelady.
I'd be happy for the gentleman to do so.
That recording was produced by the Justice Department. It is a piece of evidence that came from the Attorney General. So I would hope that playing back his own evidence would not be unreasonable.
Let me just, if I can continue this.
The gentlewoman may state a parliamentary inquiry, and that's all, because the gentleman from California has the time.
I do understand it, and I appreciate it. So may I hear this again? Are you saying that evidence can be presented, but the question I asked was the Attorney General given notice that this recording would be played?
There is no requirement under the rules of the committee that a witness before the committee be given evidence of or notice of evidence that may be presented to the witness at the hearing.
Continuing my further inquiry, as I think I heard the gentleman from California make a point, but has this been authenticated as the actual true voice for the individual who's allegedly on it?
If the gentlelady would yield, Thomas Perez has owned up to this being his voice.
Well, then the only thing, if I might continue.
The gentlewoman has not stated a valid parliamentary
inquiry. If I may continue it,
and
so
the
that
gentlewoman will suspend, and the gentleman from California will be recognized for the remainder of his question.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that I have just 2 minutes to conclude.
The gentleman's time will be restored to 2 minutes. And
I would not want to. Can I make a point of order, Mr. Chairman?
What is the gentlewoman will state her point of order?
The point of order is that Mr. Perez has authenticated his voice. Is the general authenticating his voice by answering the question? How is he authenticating his voice?
The gentlewoman will suspend. That is not a parliamentary inquiry, nor is it an appropriate point of order.
I demand regular order.
I thank the chairman for his courtesies.
The gentlewoman's point of order is not well taken, because there is no such rule that would require this committee to treat this like we were in a trial. This is an opportunity for members of the committee on both sides of the aisle to ask questions of the witness, and the gentleman from California will continue his line of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Attorney General, our investigators have seen 34 of the 35 admitted emails that violate the Federal Records Act. They have only seen the to and from. They have not seen the deliberative contents, and they have not seen the remainder of the 1,200 emails. Mr. Cummings, my ranking member, joined in a letter requesting that we have the full contents pursuant to our subpoena of all 1,200. Will you make them available to the committee based on our bipartisan request?
I will certainly look at the request. It's not something that I have personally been involved in, but I'll look at the request and try to be as responsive as we can. I'm sure there must have been a good reason why only the to and from parts were provided.
Yes, you didn't want us to see the details. Mr. Attorney General, knowing the to and from, knowing the to and...
I'm not going to stop talking now. Characterize something as something...
Mr. Chairman, would you inform the witness as to the rules of this committee?
That is inappropriate and is too consistent with the way in which you conduct yourself as a member of Congress. It's unacceptable and it's shameful.
The gentleman has the time, and the gentleman may ask the question.